I'm Isaac, and every day on this channel we go through everything Donald Trump said on True Social over the last 24 hours. And starting off with this story about Anthropic. Anthropic is a company that created Claude, a leading frontier AI model. It's a rival to ChatGPT and was used by the US government, supposedly in the capture of Maduro. Well, the CEO has been speaking against Trump, and Donald Trump responded today, saying, "The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nutjobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk. Our troops are in danger and our national security is in jeopardy. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it, we don't want it, and we will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again." And Trump calls out another big tech company, that's Apple. He shares this story of the alleged bias of Apple News because there's an ex-liberal MAG editor tasked to handpick stories for millions of iPhone users. And here are the statistics that he shares. There's 620 stories from left-leaning and other outlets highlighted by Apple News versus 0 top stories from right-leaning outlets on Apple News. And this was in January alone. And regarding tech, Trump posts his TikTok statistics. His all-time views are 339 billion views. And in 2025, there was 201 billion views of MAGA TikToks, 826 million of America First, 166 billion of Trump TikToks, and 6 billion views of just the First Lady's account. Trump is the most followed account among world leaders and politicians. And so maybe with that following, Republicans should take Trump's advice. And he gives some advice today saying it's Save America Act, not the Save Act. Republicans must start using the term Save America Act. It's much more potent and descriptive. And regarding the Supreme Court, Donald Trump shares a link to Justice Clarence Thomas's dissent on Trump's tariff decision. He also thanks him for the dissent, as well as Justice Kavanaugh for his dissent. And he calls out the decision of the Supreme Court once again, saying the recent decision of the United States Supreme Court concerning tariffs could allow for hundreds of billions of dollars to be returned to countries and companies that have been ripping off the United States for many years, and now, according to this decision, could continue to do so at an increased level. I'm sure the Supreme Court did not have this in mind. It doesn't make sense that countries and companies that took advantage of us for decades, receiving billions and billions of dollars that they should not have been allowed to receive, would now be entitled to an undeserved windfall, the likes of which the world has never seen before as a result of this highly disappointing, to say the least, ruling. Is a rehearing or re-adjudication of this case possible? President Donald J. Trump. And he provides an update on tariffs, saying tariffs have influenced Novartis and its great leader Vas Narasimhan, MD, to build 7+ manufacturing and R&D facilities, creating thousands of jobs. The radical left and the lunatics who are suing against tariffs refuse to talk about this, but the same thing is happening with hundreds of other companies. And he shares some other accomplishments, such as the mortgage rates dropping to under 6% for the first time since 2022, and this Wall Street Journal's opinion, which says markets hail Trump's economics. And a tagline from that is, "The failure of Bidenomics is clear, but Mr. Trump has turned around the economy before and is ready to do so again." And we saw Trump share a lot of accomplishments during his State of the Union address a couple days ago. And a CBS anchor, Tony Dokapil, calls Trump's speech extraordinary and vintage Trump. And Trump reposted that, as well as reposting this from Newsmax saying, "Congrats to Newsmax, big numbers. President DJT as Newsmax delivers 4 million plus viewers in breakout State of the Union coverage." coverage. Trump highlights also the moment from the State of the Union in which he awarded Purple Hearts to National Guard members ambushed in Washington, D.C., and he said, "We love you all." He also shared what would have happened if Kamala Harris had won, starting with millions more illegals crossing the border, billions more in fraud, more criminals would have been released, there would have been limits on free speech as well as gun restrictions, more trans propaganda in schools, higher taxes on everything, more DEI hires, military recruitment would have plunged, and police would have been defunded. And finally, they would have packed the Supreme Court. And this is from a video from Newsmax's Michael Savage. He also shares this quote from President Calvin Coolidge. It says, "The business of America is business." And Donald Trump also gives some key endorsements in Texas. Let's look through those. There's Don Huffins, Dr. Don Buckingham, Sid Miller, and a lot more, such as Greg Abbott. So I'm going to scroll through all these, and you can see how many people he actually endorsed. It's quite a bit, and it just keeps going, and keeps going, and keeps going, and keeps going, and keeps going. Okay, we're done. And that, my friends, was everything Donald Trump posted about over the last 24 hours. Looks like the United States is done with Anthropic, threatening criminal prosecution if they don't make their leaving Anthropic services situation easy. And Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT, announced today that he's going to be partnering with the Department of War in some capacity. We also saw him call it bias in Apple News and say that it looks like he is going to have to refund money to companies and countries because of tariffs being overruled. As always, if you guys want to support the channel, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.